The book of Ecclesiastes falls in that category of Old Testament books that are called wisdom literature. In other words, these are things that wise people come to understand as very valuable information. In Ecclesiastes chapter 7 at verse 22, it says, "Do not take to heart all the things that people say, lest you hear your servant cursing you. For your heart knows that many times you yourself have cursed others." Now, we understand here, because this is something spoken to the wise, that the wise person knows that you can't believe or take stock or take a complete depth of everything that everybody says. And even everything that the wise person himself says sometimes might be a little questionable. The text says, that you might hear your servant cursing you, and you know that you yourself have cursed others. Well, I don't think here it means curse in the sense of bringing down condemnation or anything like that. It's an exaggeration for the point that, hey, you might hear somebody talking about you. You might hear somebody saying something about you that's doesn't meet your approval or not very favorable. But you know what? I've done the same thing about other people. It doesn't mean that I'm cursing them in the sense that this is a heinous sin or something, but I'm saying things, or maybe they're saying things about me or one way or the other that they're just not things maybe that ought to be said. And you hear somebody say that about you, well, we usually think that's something bad, but it could even be something good. And in the context here, it means something bad apparently, but the wise person knows you just can't take everything to heart. There was an English preacher of another century or so ago named Charles Spurgeon, who often told people that, you can't control what other people say. You can't stop other people's tongues, but you can stop your own ears. And everybody should have, one deaf ear and one mute tongue, because that's the way that things go sometimes. And so we can filter out the things that, well, they might hurt our feelings a little bit, but we have to understand the other reason he says that you got to be careful about this is because I know I'm guilty of doing that with other people too. The old expression, when you point a finger at somebody, you got three that are pointing right back at you. Jesus said, "Judge not, that you be not judged." That's kind of the ultimate application, I guess, of this, is that we have to be careful that we are not inconsistent with the standard that we set for ourselves versus the standard we set for other people. We need to have this across the board consistency. And maybe sometimes the best thing to do is simply to say nothing. There's a saying that's attributed to a couple of different philosophers and even an old Roman playwright that goes something like this: "I have often regretted the things that I said, but I rarely regretted my silence. I have often regretted the times that I spoke, but I've rarely regretted my silence." And so sometimes it pays just to be silent, just to say nothing, just to be careful how I use my words. And sometimes that means not even using my words.